Hi guys, welcome to this tutorial. I'm looking today at the AQA 2021 Unseen Poetry. Already looked at the first question, the 24 mark question. So this question looking at the comparing question, the 8 marker. So the first poem, which I'll just put on your screen there, which I've already looked at in a previous tutorial, which was a London Thoroughfare 2 AM. We are being asked to compare that to November Night, Edinburgh, and looking at the ways in which poets present attitudes towards the city at night. Now, to me, there's going to be some obvious overlap with the points you've already done for your first question, and I wouldn't be afraid of recycling those if they are appropriate, which I think they are in the case of this. Now, this is a really tough one. It's an 8 mark question, so you're spending about 15 minutes. And in that time, you need to read a second poem, you've got to think about what you can talk about, and then you've got to write a brief comparison. It's really challenging. I would be suggesting that what you're trying to do for something like an 8 mark question, this 8 mark question, is 2 sort of nice points of comparison if you can. Now that could be similarity, they could both be similarities, they could both be differences, it could be one of each. I don't think there's a particular hierarchy to that. Okay, so in terms of looking at this poem, and I'm looking at this very much in terms of comparison to the poem I've already read and already responded to. And I'm really trying to think, what are my 2 points of comparison that I'm going to make? Right, well, the first thing that my first point of comparison is going to be to do with coldness. We thought in the first poem in the London Thoroughfare about the coldness of the light. Here there's coldness, the night tinkles like ice in glasses, so you've got a simile. Leaves are glued to the pavement with frost. We've got a metaphor we can pick out straight away. So there's a coldness. However, this coldness is genuinely about temperature and time of year versus London Thoroughfare, which would seem to be a coldness, more a metaphorical coldness, one of hostility, the kind of bright, sterile environment of the city. So that's the first thing I'm going to talk about. As I look through it, I see that we have got references to darkness, and the lamps fade. So I'm going to think about, my second point is going to be about light and dark. And I'm going to make the point that in London Thoroughfare, it's too bright, that it's too cold white lamps. In this one, however, darkness seems to be dominating the night. It doesn't feel like a light, bright thing. Now, if I had time, I might go on, and this would be quite a sophisticated point to make, that both narrators kind of look up. In London Thoroughfare, they look up the moon, and that's the moon there, that natural thing is looked at in a kind of comforting way. Here, and I think it's quite ambiguous whether this is an extended metaphor for the sky or whether it genuinely is just a building, but it certainly sort of focuses more, if you look at it on a literal level, high roof sails at the masthead. It feels more on that kind of cityscape, but they're both ideas of looking up, and you could explore something quite interesting about the way that cities they block out nature, they block out the sky, they block out perspective in some ways. So you could do something quite interesting about that. Equally, although this is about lightness and darkness, I didn't highlight this initially, but you could think about the idea of, in this poem, lots of kind of concealing images. So certainly you could just focus on these 2. If you could perhaps pop something in there. Right, I'm going to show you what I've done in terms of starting off a response to this. I've not finished it off, but I think starting off with finding a point of comparison, if you can, is a good idea. So I've started with both poets explore the ways in which speakers find cities cold. That's my opening point. In a London, just shortened the title there, Lowell focuses on metaphorical coldness, the cold lamps which are too bright. The coldness then is a lack of welcoming or hospitality. The alien city feels rather hostile. So I've kind of made my point with methods, with evidence on the first poem. So it's kind of, I'm just going to call that poem 1. In November Night, the poet focuses on literal coldness. So this is kind of my point of comparison, comparing. I've said this one, it's sort of metaphorical cold. This one, however, it is the literal coldness. Frost is mentioned, and the poet uses the simile harsh as leaf to suggest that breathing the cold air is brittle and painful, almost so cold that it obstructs the speaker's lungs. So this is kind of my point about poem 2. Unlike in London, November Night positions the speaker outside, experiencing the city for themselves rather than looking from a window. And so I've got that, I've just kind of made that link to that, you know, their feet breathing in that cold air because they're actually outside themselves. So basically this would be, you know, this could be half a response, because I've dealt with both poems. I've got some comparison, I've got methods, I've got examples, and I've linked it to the question. And then I go on, but as I said, I didn't get it finished off. So I would then just move straight on to the idea of light, which I said early on, they both do something with that. In London, it's very bright, so much so it overpowers the moon, something the poet. Now, I should have said the speaker there. It's a tactical error. Something the speaker loves. The speaker here dislikes the artificial brightness that dominates the night. In November at night, the city is far darker, darkness swirls and lamps fade, suggesting that the darkness and nighttime are more dominant than the city itself. And then I was going to go on to talk about the writer's use of natural imagery, but I just didn't get finished on it. So hopefully that's useful at seeing kind of how to bring the two together. Don't sort of stress yourself out trying to do too much with it. Remember, it's just an 8-mark question. It's only worth a third of what the first question's worth. So definitely don't get yourself in a situation where you're trying to get 3 pages down for this question. It's just not worth it from that point of view. But if you can make 2 comparisons similar to the sort of quality of the things I've done here, you'll be in a really good position. All right, thank you so much for watching. Bye.